Hello, boys and girls. Greg from the Scary Spirits podcast here to make you another cocktail. This week's cocktail is the Smooth Sailing. And as always, is the featured cocktail in today's episode. I'm going to start with a glass with ice. To that, we're going to add 1 ounce vodka, peach schnapps, 1/2 ounce, and 3 ounces orange juice to make it healthy. Vitamin C is very important, boys and girls. Next, we take grenadine, and it says to float 1 dash of grenadine over the top. So, I don't know. I'm going to layer it. I don't know what that it's floating or what, but whatever. Grenadine kind of sinks to the bottom anyway. So there we go, boys and girls. The Smooth Sailing. Kind of tastes like a fuzzy navel, I think. Peach and orange juice. Yeah. There you go, boys and girls. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy the podcast. See ya.
This week's movie on the Scary Spirits podcast, Bloody New Year, reminds me of the age-old debate. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? I mean, just how much New Year needs to be in Bloody New Year to make it a New Year movie? Of course, I'm Team New Year. I have to be. I picked this movie specifically for that reason. But hey, no matter where you land in this scintillating debate, it's still worth a watch just to bring back the warm memories of learning the bunny hop in the grade school gym. Or was your school more into square dancing? Either way, still a reason to celebrate. Cheers!
Welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast. Please be advised that the presenters may use adult language and/or discuss adult situations. This podcast is not intended for younger listeners or those that may be easily offended. So, if you're ready, let's go.
Hello, boys and girls. I'm Greg.
Hi, everyone. I'm Karen.
And welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast, the podcast that combines the two very different but highly compatible worlds of scary films and alcoholic spirits.
What could possibly go wrong?
Indeed. How are you, Karen?
I'm so excited.
You are.
Well,
That's
it's
2 weeks in a row, Karen.
It's going to be a new year, a new me. I'm going to be even more delightful. Can you?
Yeah.
I can't wait. I'm sure you can't either.
For you to be more delightful? No.
Even
no,
more
cannot.
delightful.
Yeah, so this is January 1st, if you're listening on the day this goes live.
How are you, Greg?
I'm okay, Karen.
Just okay.
Okay. Made it for, another trip around the sun or whatever it is. Yeah, It beats the alternative, Karen.
That's the
So,
truth.
so yeah, I'm okay. How was your Christmas?
Lovely as always. And yours?
It was fine, I'm sure.
Do you remember it?
Sure, I remember it. No, it was good. Good. Got to see relatives, in-laws, whatnot, nieces, nephew. My, how they've grown, Karen. They just keep growing and growing.
I know they got to stop feeding them, but somehow they don't do that. And
Well, nephew's bigger, taller, bigger than me. 16, Karen, 16 years old.
remember the days.
Do you?
Sure. Why wouldn't I?
Okay. I do as well.
Those days are clear. It's yesterday. I can't remember.
All right, Karen, I believe this film was your choice, was it? Was it not to ring
Yes,
in the new year with?
I do remember that this was my choice.
And what film have you chosen for us, Karen?
Well, I've chosen the 1987 New Year's classic, Bloody New Year,
Any reason you chose that, Karen?
because I thought it was going to be about New Year's.
Oh, it is in the name.
I mean, I was a little misled by the title. There's a little tinge in there, but not really.
Can't judge a book by their cover, isn't that what they say, Karen?
And that's exactly what I did, Greg.
It is.
Even the movie poster looks
I know.
like,
Looks very
it-
festive.
yes.
Party hats. And
So what are you going to do? I was tricked again.
do we have a cocktail, a New Year's themed cocktail, perhaps, to go along with our
No, we
maybe
don't.
something with champagne?
No, we just have a normal run of the mill cocktail.
All right, go on.
It's a great drink, though. It says it right here. It's called the Smooth Sailing Cocktail. It's from food.com.
How would we make a smooth sailing cocktail, Karen?
You're just going to blend together 1 ounce of vodka, half an ounce of peach schnapps, and 3 ounces of orange juice and pour it over ice. Then float the grenadine on top. And if you're fancy, garnish with a slice of lime. But my grenadine sunk.
Yeah, it doesn't float.
So
I don't know what the point of that was.
This is misleading also.
Yeah.
I've been misled. But yes, the Smooth Sailing Cocktail.
Kind of tastes like a fuzzy navel to me, Karen.
Is it that or a tequila? Yeah, it's not the sunrise because it doesn't have tequila, but it is very similar to a fuzzy navel with a little bit of peach schnapps and grenadine in there. So it's tasty.
If there's peach schnapps in a fuzzy
Is
navel.
there?
Yeah,
I thought it was just
orange juice and peach schnapps.
I thought it was just orange juice and vodka, but that's the poor man's.
That's a screwdriver.
Oh, the screwdriver.
Karen.
That's right. That's a screwdriver.
Yeah, you add some peach schnapps to a screwdriver and you got a fuzzy navel.
Gotcha.
We have grenadine. It does have kind of a more like a sunset look to
Yes.
It
It tastes good.
The red grenadine on the bottom. Yep, we'll get to it. We'll talk all about it, I'm sure. Should we give our friends and listeners time to make their own
Fuzzy navel.
sailing.
/ smooth sailing cocktail. Absolutely. Let's do that.
Hold on. And we're back.
Yes, we are.
Karen, might you have a brief synopsis for us?
I do.
Go on. Tell us all the story.
A group of friends take refuge in an island hotel that is decorated for New Year's. The problem is it's early summer, and soon enough, even the walls themselves are striking out against them.
We're almost a match. Yours has an extra sentence in there. No,
What does yours just say? A group of friends take refuge on an island hotel decorated for New Year?
Then it goes right to, but soon enough, even the
Oh.
walls themselves are striking out against them.
Oh, you don't have it's early summer.
No.
No.
I like that one, though. That's better. All right, Karen, tell us everything you really enjoyed. But remember, we want to keep this under an hour. So go on. Tell us everything you liked.
I will say, I think the story had potential. I think if it was done well, it would have been interesting. They could have made the story interesting. Some of the acting wasn't horrible. It was okay. I think the acting is tempered by the way the story's presented and the special effects and everything. So I think that plays a role in it. That's pretty much it. There's not a whole lot. It's okay. I mean, it's okay. But there's nothing that I really thought was exceptional in it. Did you see anything?
So I wrote the acting. It was okay. It wasn't terrible.
It's better than the film, I think. Some of the players are better than the film.
Probably. Yeah. Story, I like the story. I thought the story was fine. I was wondering what the hell is going on. It's almost like you're solving a mystery, it felt like. You know what I mean? You're trying to figure out what happened
Yeah,
here.
I think, yeah, I agree.
I liked the repeated use of reflections in the story and in the telling of the story, right?
I
I
agree.
guess.
They sort of helped you along, but there's no conclusion to it, really.
No.
But I liked, yes, there were a
So
lot of mirrors.
was there sequel potential, Karen?
Well, not really. And I guess the island is still there. So there is always sequel potential with that. More people could come. So yeah, I guess I could say that. So that's another positive.
Did you dig the groovy 80s music, Karen?
No, it wasn't my kind of 80s music,
Okay.
unfortunately.
It wasn't oiled
But
up
I
man with a
recognized it.
saxophone.
Nobody beats that.
It's very similar though musically, I think, but just the visual wasn't there for you.
Yeah, just didn't all come together.
And I swear I've heard of this band before. So it sounded very familiar. So the band is Cry No More. It sounded very familiar to me, like I'd seen them on MTV or something way, way back, 20 years ago, Karen, in the 80s.
Well, the funny part was I was actually thinking of this as I was watching it. There were such distinctions for me anyway in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, right? Like hairstyles and clothing styles.
Uh-huh.
And then I don't know if I just got older, but the 90s I know there are certain things that you can peg as 90s and the aughts and all that, but it all kind of runs together.
Yeah, did you see have you seen the Taco Bell commercial that's set in the 90s?
Is it the neon colors or something?
Yes. Yeah.
But for me, like
It made
I
me feel old.
can distinctly tell 80s fashion, which this has,
Uh-huh.
and 70s fashion and 60s fashion and 40s and 50s. And then it kind of blurs for me. And I think I must have just gotten old and stopped paying attention to it. But 20 years ago, if we were making a film like this, like they were in the 80s and it was the 60s, the end of the 60s, almost so 20 years. Well, we'd be making a movie about 2000, and I just don't, in my head, I couldn't put together clothing and stuff from 2000 that would make it so distinctly 2000, like the 80s with the hair and the white pumps and the double jeans and like the whole thing just you can look at it. I don't know. I would have a hard time. And I don't know, like I said, I probably got old and maybe people are screaming, there's distinction in the 90s and 2000s and
I'm sure
2010 and 2020. But what would you say? What's the fashion in 2010 that would really stand out to you?
I don't know. Maybe we stopped caring about fashion, Karen.
Oh, you certainly couldn't tell by looking at us, Craig.
No.
So I kind of like the fact. It's not that I enjoy seeing it. It makes me laugh, where they tie the ponytail on the side of the head, or they just the clothes they're wearing. And
Speaking of that, I kind of had a hard time at first figuring out what year it was in the very beginning.
Yeah, but the mullet's there.
No, the black and white.
Oh, yeah. Well,
footage.
that, sure. But
I'm
they
like,
had it hung in the
because
banner.
they still, I know. Once I saw that, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. But they still had the 80s look about them. It looked like people from the 80s trying to do. That's why I
Yes.
couldn't tell. Is it 60s? Is it 50s?
Because some of the clothes looked like 50s.
Yes.
So it looked like they were
Clothes
kind of.
did, but the hair, not so much. And
No, you're right. It was confused. It was not well done.
I mean, they're wearing bobby socks and all that poodle skirts and whatnot, right? But
no, that's 50s. Yeah.
yeah, that's
So-
what I thought. That's why I thought it was 50s, because that's the kind of what they were wearing. But whatever.
Yeah, a little. I think the story is interesting and could have, if it was done better, would be a lot better movie. That's the most, I think, intriguing part of the whole film was the story.
Yeah, I agree. Anything you didn't like really
Things
jumped
that
out at
really
you?
stood out were some of the special effects were horrible. Some weren't as bad, but most were pretty bad. The acting wasn't great. Again, I think it's stymied by the film. The film kind of bounces all over the place in the beginning. I don't really know why we had the whole carnival thing except to have the people follow them. And would you really follow someone across an ocean or I don't know, wherever, just because they were butthole teenagers at the carnival? I don't know. I think it would have been better for me if they had stayed in the 1960s party for a little while and kind of given me an idea of what might be going on there and how all of it happened. It's so disjointed. We have like a couple of different stories. We have the carnival thing, we have the New Year's party, we have the pilot, we have it just kind of didn't all come together like they were hoping, I don't think. So it was very disjointed for me because I was like, oh, wait, now there's another story. And they could have spent more time on two stories and left the third one out or something that would have made it, given us a little more information about what the pilot was doing. I mean, we do get a little Batman thing at the end where they explain it, but that was the cool part for me. Like, follow that line a little bit more and spend less time on other things. I mean, I didn't care for the music, but you know, what are you going to do? It's 80s music. Besides the special effects, I think nothing was horrible about it, but nothing was great about it. So I'm kind of stuck in that. It reminded me a lot of, what was the blue light?
Curse of the Blue Light?
It reminded me a lot of that in some ways. Just the production value, the acting, the special effects. It had that same kind of feel to it. Same time frame, I think. That's what it reminded me of. What about you? Do you have anything that you really disliked about it?
I wrote effects not great. Some are okay, just like you said. That's exactly what I wrote. Some of them were okay. Primarily the makeup isn't good when they turn.
Yeah, and there's a lot of rewinding.
Yes.
That
doing it in reverse. So
yeah. And there's a lot of reuse of shots too.
I wrote the stunts aren't great either.
Oh no, they're bad. Yes, I forgot about that, but you're right.
And going back to where you said it was disjointed, I think it would have been better if they'd left the whole New Year's shit out of it. It's not even needed.
No, I think
This
you're
could have
right.
happened anytime. You didn't even need that backstory at all in the very beginning.
It's true. But if but that's when the experiment with the machine was being done.
Yeah, but we don't get that in the beginning.
No.
We get it during the
No, I think
film.
But if they had they could have, if they left out something instead of trying to do all of it. They must have had Christmas and New Year decorations or something and said, let's go with it.
I don't know. Maybe they got to the location and it was already decorated and they're like, oh.
You're right. That probably would have been best, but they needed a way to get the ghosts at the hotel. So a party, but it could have been any party.
Yeah.
Could have been. Well, then what difference does it make? I think leaving out the whole first part of the carnival and all that stuff would have been.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that wasn't really needed either. Like you said, except to bring the other people to the island.
But they weren't even needed to be there.
I know, but I think the reason they brought them is to make you wonder, well, is this really
is it supernatural
or is it these guys doing this stuff?
Yeah, gotcha.
That's all I can think. That's all they're good for. But the guy who played the older gentleman, who's credited as Dad, he was also the stunt coordinator, Karen. So you got 2 jobs out of him, probably for the price of one. And you're right. It's low budget. It's got that look. And we did have opportunity for nudity, but did not have any.
True.
So, or was that?
Multiple times.
Yeah. At one point, I'm like, you just got dressed. All right, go ahead on.
They're teenagers.
I guess. I don't remember that, Karen.
Those are the good things to remember from when you were a teenager.
All right, anything else you didn't really care for?
No, I mean, I think if you go in knowing it's low budget, and I don't know if I would recommend seeing this one, but if you go in with certain expectations, I don't think you'll be too disappointed.
It's another one of those where if you can't sleep and you got the TV on at 3 a.m. and this comes on, you're probably going to watch it.
It could be better than an infomercial or something,
Oh yeah,
right?
for sure.
You know, it is a small cast, even though I don't know anybody's name.
Yeah, it took them a while to distinguish who they all are. That's once again I wrote, oh, she's the blonde. Oh, she's the brunette. Oh, he's so and so's boyfriend or whatever. Oh, he's the tall blonde guy.
Yeah.
She's the ride girl.
The American. There's one American. I think
Yeah.
they're all British.
Yeah, the ride girl is the American. What kind of cocktail rating you want to give this film, Karen?
It's a 4.
I agree.
I'm on a roll with picking bad movies.
It's your gift, Karen.
Yes. Maybe I'll turn over a new leaf now.
All right, Karen, before we get into it, scene by scene, would you like to hear a review?
Somebody reviewed this.
Yes. This must
What?
have been from a DVD release or something. Because
Okay.
it's fairly recent, but I haven't read it yet, so it's pretty long.
Really?
I know, right? Before I read the review, Karen, I have to tell you, this has a 24% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes and a 4.5 out of 10 on IMDb. But, Karen, what do you think Google users think?
68%.
I'm going to give you that one. It's
Really?
69, 69%.
Oh, I didn't even go over. Yes. See, I'm turning over a new leaf. I told you.
The review I have is from Rock Shock Pop
Okay.
from February 4th, 2019.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. So it says the final feature film directed by the great Norman J. Warren. Apparently he's great. I don't know. Opens with, and this is his final film, opens with a prologue where we see some grainy black and white footage documenting the festivities from a New Year's Eve party welcoming in, he says 1959, but it's not. It's 1960.
Yeah, it is.
Playing out over the opening credits. From there, we head to a lovely British beach where people frolic about and enjoy the lovely weather. Here we meet Rick and his super cute girlfriend Janet and their friends Leslie, Tom, and an annoying guy named Spud. When Rick spies some thugs harassing an American tourist named Carol, again, that's wrong. It's Spud.
Yes, Spud, who's annoying, rescues the girl.
I don't know if this person saw this film at all. Sees the American tourist named Carol on a tilt-a-whirl. He steps in, and before you know it, chaos erupts. They hide out in a spook show, which, again, I'm not sure why that was needed. They hide out in a spook show, but wind up making a break for it and eventually take off in a sailboat to get away from the troublemakers. It turns out that they kind of suck at sailing, and eventually they ram into some rocks and sink their boat. Thankfully, they're close by an island and they manage to make it to shore pretty easily. Here they come across a stately old building called the Grand Island Hotel. Oddly enough, it's all decked out in Christmas decorations, despite the fact that it's the middle of July. It also seems to be abandoned, yet somehow in every nice shape looking very recently lived in. Regardless, our sextet makes themselves at home, splitting off to make out a bit here and there, and not too long after, strange things start happening. And we'll leave it at that because this movie is so fucking wacky enough that it's best to go in pretty blind. Those are his words, boys and girls, not mine. Warren's film benefits from a pretty quick pace, not really bothering with giving his characters much in the way of personality, but instead keeping our attention first with some action and then some ever-increasing sense of the bizarre. It doesn't take long for the movie to get to the island, and from there we bear witness to strange things aplenty as the film mixes up supernatural horror with slasher movie elements and wraps it up in a big, sloppy blanket of absurdity. None of the performances are really all that good, but everyone in the cast is perfectly fine in their respective part. If no one here is all that remarkable, neither are they particularly bad? Sufficient is probably the best way to describe the acting. The guy who plays Rick, who has mostly done British TV work, but who did have a decent supporting role in Nicholas Winding's Refn's Bronson, is likable enough as the male lead. Nikki Brooks, who plays Janet, chews the scenery at the end of the movie, but somehow it's fitting, and I agree. She was over the top, but she was like the scream queen, and it was fitting.
Yes.
Catherine Roman, who plays Carol, her American heritage has no bearing on the plot whatsoever, but she's fine in her part. While Susie Atkinson, who played Leslie, another British TV stalwart, having appeared on Mr. Bean and Are You Being Served, is dressed in such a way as to make her character look much older than she is. Colin Haywood as Spud has an annoying speaking voice, while Julian Ronnie, who plays Tom, seems like a nice enough guy, cast here as the dork of the bunch.
How would you like to be in a movie and they're mentioning everyone actor by actor, and all they say about you is you have an annoying voice? That's pretty rough,
Well,
you know?
that's probably how he was written. Maybe he was acting. The movie benefits immensely from some great location work. The Grand Hotel isn't quite the Overlook, but it gets the job done, and the various outlying buildings and wrecked planes add to the mystery. The craggy shore of the island is also a boon. It looks remote enough, pretty and scenic, but also potentially dangerous. Some of the effects work featured in the picture is also pretty solid, never quite 100% convincing, but good enough in the way that the best low-budget horror movie effects tend to be. The film also features a few songs on its soundtrack from a British band called Cry No More, the two most memorable selections being Recipe for Romance, which plays a few times in the movie and in its complete form over the end credits, and Caveman Rock, which plays from the jukebox in the hotel. Both
Caveman Rock. That sounds familiar somehow.
both
I
of these
don't.
songs, especially Recipe, will get stuck in your head for a while once the movie is over with.
Mm,
Thankfully, no.
yeah.
Bloody New Year is a fairly bonkers affair, never quite making a whole lot of sense, but entertaining us regardless. Yeah, so this is a Blu-ray review because it says Vinegar Syndrome has brought it to Blu-ray in as best a condition we're going to see, and with a director's commentary as well. If you're able to throw logic to the wind, you can have a lot of fun with this one.
Generous, I think, sort of. But I think that's kind of what we said.
Are you ready to get into it? Scene by scene.
Sure. I should say I watched this on YouTube
I did as well.
and no advertisements, and it was free, but not available on Amazon at this time.
Are you ready?
Yes, let's go.
Film opens, we have credits, and there's flashbacks, grainy black and white flashbacks, and so I wrote, "Is this the 50s?" question mark. But then I saw the sign and it's 1959 going into 1960. So it's New Year's Eve 1959.
And they're dancing. And I think it's probably a Congo line, but it reminded me of, I don't know if you, in Catholic school, we learned the bunny hop. Did
See,
you
that's
learn
what
the
I was
bunny hop?
thinking.
Yeah.
I was thinking, is that the bunny hop?
I could remember it, but it wasn't. I don't think it was the bunny hop, but we learned the bunny hop.
Yeah, I think it was more like a conga line, like you said.
Yeah, but it was funny. Brought back some flashbacks there.
And right here I wrote Cry No More. I recognize that name, that band from somewhere. I don't know why. Then after the credits, we have black and white fades to color.
That was interesting.
Yeah,
When
it
there's
was.
one woman left. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the girls that stays behind, and I wrote, she seems kind of tipsy. And then I wrote, is she pulled into a mirror? Question mark.
That's what it looked like. And that
I mean-
circles around back at the end. But yes, she's pulled into the mirror. She's adjusting her makeup. So she gets close to the mirror. She's dabbing her lips and things. And then bam, she goes into the mirror and immediately we're on the beach.
Beach, current time period. So the 1980s.
Well, I didn't know if they were Australian. I said, is this Australia? And then I said, oh no, English.
We don't spend much time on the beach because next thing I have written down is fun park.
The only thing I noticed about the beach is they sat directly on the sand instead of on a towel. And I was like, oh, no. But yeah, then they go to the fun park.
Because I guess
One guy's trying to,
Spud.
yes, there's two couples and Spud's the fifth wheel and he wants to go find a girlfriend. So he's going to the fun park. And then everybody goes, oh, let's go. And they go.
Yeah, so then we see Spud trying to pick up girls, trying to talk them up or whatever. I don't
And we
know.
see a lot of footage of the couples on rides.
And then we have a couple of hooligans I wrote. Karen spinning a girl on a, what do they call it? A tilt-a-whirl?
Yeah, I would have called it the teacup or something.
Yeah, I would too. Or witches' cauldrons.
Yes.
And they're spinning her. And then I wrote the preppy guys intervene. So the whole group of them, I say, intervened. And I didn't know any other names then. So I just wrote
No, I said they're
preppy guys.
Preppy guys. I wrote the same, meaning that one of them has a sweater tied around his shoulders and they have, I think, khaki
still a
kind of
thing?
pants. I don't think so.
Okay.
I should have looked that up. That would have been a good thing to look up.
Yeah. And then one of them, who I think it's Tom. Tom turns off the ride and takes the fuse out of it. And they run away.
And in the meantime, the girls are at a fortune teller, correct?
Yeah.
And she is telling their fortune. And then the guys run in and knock everything over and grab the girls because they're in trouble because they're being chased because they pull out the fuse of the ride, the tilt-a-whirl. And then we see a quick flashback. I don't know if it's here in a few minutes of the fortune teller holding her crystal ball and it starts bleeding and lots of blood. Yeah, and she screams.
See that.
It's very quick.
All I have is she screams at the crystal ball.
Yeah, blood comes out.
I didn't notice that. So then we have more chase scenes at the fun park. Then they run into the scare attraction I wrote. It's like one of those carnival scare attractions. So they're running around in there a while, and then a car drives in to the scare attraction. And
like a Range Rover with a boat on the back of it.
Yeah, and they grab the preppy guys and girls.
I think it's one of the girls goes and gets the car.
And then the hooligans watch as they drive away. So then we cut to them sailing, Karen.
Well, wait. So just a couple of notes before we get there. They do fight off the hooligans because they're going so slowly. The guys catch up and jump on the boat. But then when they do some turns and stuff, these people are supposed to be falling off the boat, but you can physically see them jumping into the air. It's very obvious that they're not falling. That's the stunt coordinator for you.
I noticed that too on the tilt-a-whirl or whatever it is. They
multiple
were jumping
times
off of it when they're supposed to be thrown off of it from, centrifugal force, or it stopped abruptly.
Ooh, yes.
Which threw them off. So then we see them sailing. Carol is with them, the American girl they just met.
Because they saved her from the hooligans. But this is the smooth sailing lasts about 30 seconds. But hey, there was still some smooth sailing right before. So my drink fits.
Yeah, they hit a rock and then water begins entering the boat. Leslie can't swim. Luckily, they're close to an island they can wade or whatever they say, and they all jump into the water. They arrive on shore, and I wrote, someone watches them. Don't know who, but someone's there watching them.
Yes.
And then we have a startle scare with an animal skull.
There's barbed wire they got to step over. There's
Danger,
a big
keep out sign.
Yes, big keep out sign. Yes.
They show a couple times. They even zoom in on it in case you didn't see it.
Yeah, in case you didn't notice and you're rooting for them to go further.
And then we see someone behind a tree poke their head out behind a tree. Hello, boys and girls. Doing a podcast can be thirsty work. Lucky for you, we have all our drink recipes on our website, scaryspirits.com. And if you want to see how each drink is made, hit up our YouTube channel, Scary Spirits Podcast, and watch me play bartender. I show you how to make every themed drink. Now, back to the show. So then they find a hotel. It's called the Grand Island Hotel. So they're like, oh, great, we'll just hang out here for a while, get a room, whatever.
Well, so they're thinking they'll have a phone and they'll just call and get some help. And then they joke about getting rooms, but then they go in.
So they walk in, it's decorated for Christmas, and they are wondering why, because they say it's July.
Yes.
So then I wrote they couple up and separate, as you do, Karen, I guess. And Tom and Leslie find the bar. That would have been me, Karen. I'd have found let's go find the bar.
Nobody's here. That means the liquor's unguarded.
And so then Leslie sees someone in the window, but then they disappear.
Yeah, and that guy looked like one of the hooligans in the window. He had
Yeah.
the leather jacket on and
Right.
everything. And I noticed that right away that looked like a hooligan. But they split up to try to, they do ring the bell at the front desk and they're trying to get someone to come. So they say, let's split up and try to find someone. They do couple up, but they are trying to locate an employee.
So next thing I have is Leslie wants brandy, something to warm her up, Karen.
Brandy cures everything.
And she's reading a magazine, and then as she walks away and sets it down, it like closes on its own. It's a Popular Screen magazine, Karen, dated January 1960.
There's an ashtray on the table too that she knocked over, of course.
So then Spud goes to find Carol a blanket. So he goes upstairs, leaving Carol.
Yeah, she keeps
Downstairs.
insisting she's very cold. And so he did start a fire for her. And then he
Yes.
goes to look for a blanket. So he's being nice.
And while he's looking for a blanket upstairs, a maid enters with a blanket, which we see her appear out of nowhere as Spud is going upstairs. And she gives the blanket to Carol and tells her to slip out of her wet things.
Yes, but Carol doesn't do that. She just uses the blanket.
Yes, she does. And the maid does tell Carol not to worry about the others. They are all being taken care of.
Yes, they are.
Next, we see Janet taking a bath.
Yeah, which was so weird. Like, okay, we
bubble
don't know.
bath.
Yes, if anyone's here in the hotel, I think I'll take a bath.
A bubble bath. So no one can see my naughty parts. But then, like the spray hose from the tub, like moves on its own, like a snake or something.
Starts to, yeah.
And then Rick enters. Then we cut to Spud, and he hears music, and he goes to investigate. He goes into like a ballroom or something, and there's a band on stage. At least two guys, anyway. And so he goes down there to investigate, and the light reflects from the guitar, kind of blinding Spud or whatever, and then the band disappears. Then we cut to Rick and Janet finding clothes.
Yeah, that fit them very well.
Yeah, and Janet sees a girl in the reflection in the mirror behind her wearing the same dress, but when she turns around, there's no one there. Next, I have Rick feeling frisky.
Kissy facing on the bed.
Yeah, and the girl in the mirror watches.
She doesn't look happy either.
No, she looks sad. Then we cut to Tom and Leslie in the pool room or whatever, and I guess Tom's playing snooker.
Leslie's kind of trying to get Tom to do the nasty the whole time, and he keeps telling her no. She's like, I wonder what it'd be like to do it on the snooker table. And he's like, do what? Which for a teenager is, Anyway, snooker is a cue sport played on a rectangular billiards table covered with green cloth called baize, with 6 pockets, one at each corner and one in the middle of each long side. First played by British Army officials stationed in India in the second half of the 19th century, the game is played with 22 balls comprising of a white cue ball, 15 red balls, and 6 other balls, a yellow, green, brown, blue, pink, and black, collectively called the colors. Using a snooker cue, the individual players or teams take turns to strike the cue ball to pot other balls in a predefined sequence, accumulating points for each successful pot and for each foul committed by the opposing player or team. An individual frame of snooker is won by the player who has scored the most points, and a snooker match ends when a player wins a predetermined number of frames. The word snooker was a well-established derogatory term used to describe inexperienced or first-year military personnel. So there you go. Similar to pool, but not the same.
So next they go to look for a fuse box because none of the electricity in the hotel is working. And as they walk away, the balls on the snooker table rack themselves, I wrote, Karen.
Yes, they do.
So then Spud returns to Carol with a blanket. She's already got one, of course. And Spud wants to leave.
Yeah, he's the smartest one. He's like, there's some weird shit going on. Let's get out of here.
So next we see Tom and Leslie go into the basement looking for a fuse box. Once again, there's someone outside the window. And once again, Leslie is feeling frisky.
And they're
Uh,
using a candle to walk around down in the basement looking for the fuse box.
Then we cut to Rick and Janet kissy facing again, I wrote. Back to Tom looking for the fuse box. He wants to find it. I guess the candle blows out, so he relights it and inadvertently lights some fireworks down in the basement.
Yeah, I think when he turns on, he does find the fuse box and he turns it on. Something happens. I don't know if they throw the candle because they're scared, but yes, fireworks start going off in the basement. So the first firecrackers are believed to have been bamboo stalks that exploded when thrown into the fire in ancient China around 2nd century BC. The hollow air pockets in the bamboo would overheat and cause the stalks to explode. So fireworks are thought to have originated in China, and there is evidence that primitive firecrackers date back as far as 200 BC. But yeah, they all start going off in the corner.
The others hear the fireworks and they all meet in the lobby. Then I have the vacuum cleaner and Santa doll both come on by themselves.
The vacuum cleaner is very menacing. It's one of those old bag ones.
And Electrolux. So then they all go upstairs and look for dry clothes. I guess. I don't know.
Well, because Rick and Janet have found clothes that fit them perfectly, and they say there's a ton more upstairs. Come on.
Then a TV in the lobby comes on, and it's talking about experimental aircraft and an anti-radar device.
Yeah, it's like a panel discussion with a very calm person trying to say there's nothing to worry about, a moderator, and a person that's freaking out that the world's going to end if this thing goes through. So
Back upstairs, they all go through clothes. And then there's a TV up there, and the same program is on it as well. So then they all get dressed in 60s clothes, I wrote. I think Carol goes into a room and the bed moves as if someone is on it, sitting on it, or laying on it, or whatever.
yeah, she goes off kind of by herself and finds her own clothes, her own 60s clothes, not.
Yeah. Then we're back in the bar and they hear voices. So they go to investigate and they end up in a movie theater. And Rick goes up to the projector room.
So the movie that's playing that they're watching is called Fiend Without a Face. And it's a 1958 independently made British black and white science fiction horror film. It's a drama and directed by Arthur Crabtree.
Is it a drama?
Well, here's the premise, which makes me think I may pick this one sometime. A scientist on an air base in Canada experiments with the materialization of thought waves through atomic energy, which ultimately take the form of malevolent, invisible killer brains, which then materialize as flying brains with attached spinal columns and eye stalks, strangling people with their spinal cords. Come on. That sounds amazing.
Yes, it does, Karen.
It was released in June 1958 by MGM as a double feature with The Haunted Strangler, if you want to pick one to go along with it, Greg.
Okay. So I wrote, the others watch the horror movie. The film ends, but Rick can't control the projectors in the projector room. They stop and start on their own. Next, a home movie from, it looks like the hotel starts. And the film, as it is going through projector, is not going through the pickup reel. It's going on the floor and begins wrapping around Rick's feet. Next, I have an Arab guy attacks Spud.
It's a silent black and white video, and a guy comes out of the film. And so Spud is up there kind of making fun of it, right?
Yeah.
But let me go back to just one little bit because they're watching the movie, it ends, and then a film about the hotel comes on.
Right.
They're showing like the swing sets, and there's a girl using a hula hoop.
Yes,
okay.
There is.
So the history of the hula hoop, Greg, is long and varied, with origins in many cultures and time periods. They had them in ancient Greek and Egypt. The hoops were used for exercise and play, made from dried glass. not dried glass. They were made from dried grasses, vines, or other stiff plants. A vase in the Louvre from 500 BC depicts uh, rolling hula hoops. And Native American culture, they used them. They were used in storytelling dances in the 1400s, representing the circle of life. In England, 14th century, they became a craze, but doctor blamed them for a variety of ailments, including back pain and heart attacks. So in the 1800s, British sailors noticed the similarities between hula dancing and hooping, and the name hula hoop was born. And in the 1950s, the Wham-O toy company created the modern plastic hula hoop after seeing Australian children playing with bamboo hoops. The hoop was a huge success, with 25 million sold in the first 4 months. As you know, Greg, some modern hula hoops make sounds light up or have decorations on them.
So the guy jumps out, I guess, there dressed like an Arab or something.
Yeah, I don't know if that was part of the hotel stuff or what, but yeah, he jumps out of the film and
Attacks Spud.
unalives him.
And Rick trips over the film in the projector room. And next thing I have written down is Spud gone. He gone.
All we see him is he strangled, and then he gets some scratches on his face, and that's the end of Spud.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. Janet runs away hysterically. Rick runs after her. Carol stays behind as Tom and Leslie explore the island.
Yeah, they don't kind of mourn Spud very much. I mean, I understand that they have to keep moving and get things done, but no one seems to care. They just move on.
Tom and Leslie enter a house, and a fishing net falls on Leslie.
Leslie's determined. She is a little freaked out. I want to find a phone. And she said, I'm going in whether anybody's home or not because I want to get a phone.
A rope also wraps around her.
Yeah, the fishing net's attacking her, basically, digging the hooks into her skin. And
Tom cuts it with a hatchet, and he frees Leslie.
Yes.
Next, I have ghillie suit guy attacks Leslie. There's like something on the table, and it like turns into a guy in a ghillie suit.
He comes alive. Yeah. It's a green tablecloth. Next thing you know, he's attacking, and
then Tom harpoons him.
Yes.
Takes a harpoon.
But something gets Tom. I think he gets a little jab in or something. Something happens to Tom.
Next, I have Rick and Janet in the woods, someone watching. They hear laughter. They go to investigate. No sign of anyone, but the bushes shake around them, and they run away. And as they're running, I wrote, the camera comes towards them several times.
Yes.
Like once it's the exact same shot back to back.
Yes.
Comes right towards them, and then they separate, and the camera goes between them. And so I'm like, is this supposed to be something chasing them? I don't know what's going on here. Then they go at the beach, and we see footprints appear in the sand. A male and a female, because one of them has heels, Garen. And then the footprints disappear. They run away again, and we see more footprints. Then they hear a plane crash, and they see an explosion. They go over there, and they find a burned out building. Then once again, Rick sees a soldier with a gun behind him in a reflection. Rick turns, and there's nothing there. Cut back to Carol at the hotel, and she goes after who she thinks is Rick there, and Janet. Then we see the maid enter a house. Carol follows. There's a fire in the fireplace. Carol opens a door, and there is a blizzard behind it, question mark, I wrote.
Yeah, it's strange, but it looks like she's going to freeze to death, and then she doesn't.
Yeah, she crawls to the fire and screams, and then everything stops. And she finds herself outside the building, and the door is locked. So she looks in the window, and there's a snow globe in the window of a girl dressed just like her in a snow globe spinning around.
So why do you think she was saved?
I have no idea.
Because later they're saying the last two contestants are, Carol and Rick. Well, she could have been out of the game right then, but somebody saves her. And that's kind of how this movie sort of goes. Things happen and you think, well, why did that happen? But there's no explanation. It just moves on. Yep. She never mentions that she was in the house. She never says there was this blizzard. Nothing. It just moves on.
Yeah, Carol runs back to the hotel and meets Rick and Leslie and Janet. Janet brings them to the house. She says there's something wrong with Tom. She brings them to the house they were in.
Leslie brings them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They go in the house, and then Rick opens another door inside the house and almost falls off a cliff. There's nothing there. So they go to look for Tom over the cliff because they think he might have like fallen down it or something.
Yeah. And they think, oh, he could still be alive. Let's go find him.
And then the guy from the fun house or the fun park, the hooligan, fights with Rick. They open the door and he's standing there.
The old guy,
Dad. The guy
yeah, the
they call
dad, the guy who was
whatever.
running the teacups, whatever you call it.
And so he punches Leslie through the gut and it goes right through her stomach.
Yeah. So was she already dead? And
I don't know, but that's what happens. And then she
how could
turns, I wrote. Is
she
she
does?
becoming a
But
zombie?
I think she already was because he couldn't punch through her gut. The only reason he could do that is because she was already
I don't
turned.
know. But then Leslie throws the guy through a wall and over a cliff. But she's a zombie now or something.
A demon, or I think maybe demon,
Then Rick throws the fishing net over Leslie and they run away.
which
Everyone else
seems
runs
to
away.
stop her. But she's got some very poor makeup. Her face is kind of silver. Half of it's looks like foam or something. I don't know. But she's obviously not Leslie anymore. Whether she's supposed to be a zombie or what, she's turned.
As they run away, Janet falls into a hole, question mark, I wrote. Rick and Carol pull her out. They make their way down the cliff, I think, and we see someone stalking them. Carol thinks it's the hooligans from the fun fair. They head back to the hotel. They make a run for the hotel. They get in and Rick locks the front door. Then they all go to lock the back door. And I wrote that back door don't look very secure to me.
It's like a shutter. I was
It is.
like,
It's like a shutter.
I could have kicked that in.
You don't even have to kick it. You just gotta. You could probably put your hand through the shutters or whatever it is
Yeah.
and just pull it out. But
Cool.
whatever. Then we have a shot of the Santa moving again. And then there's a knock at the door, and I think it's Leslie. It sounds like Leslie saying she wants to be let in.
And Carol is the smart one here. I mean, she's tough through this whole thing, but she's like, it's a trick. Don't open the door. And she'll say that multiple times. And they're shown these tricks multiple times, but the boys don't seem to learn from this. But anyway,
Rick goes upstairs to check the windows, I guess to be sure they're locked. Carol and Janet check the downstairs windows. Then the jukebox starts, and one of the hooligans busts through the wall. This is Ace. Ace is his name. And Carol hits him with a bottle over the head.
yes, Carol takes charge.
Janet runs upstairs. Hooligan, I guess Ace tries to grab her. I don't know, or maybe it's the bear now, the other guy. He's called the bear. Leslie comes from the ceiling and spins the hooligan's head around, breaking his neck.
But she goes around like 3 times and then
Yes.
forces it to the side. And I'm like, if it's gone around 3 times, it's done.
Yeah.
That last motion wasn't needed. But
Yep. So then Rick finds a gun, and Janet is grabbed by the banister.
the end of the banister, which is an eagle or something, right? But
Yeah.
it's grabbed a hold of her wrist.
Leslie approaches her. Rick shoots Leslie. And then Carol hacks at the banister, freeing Janet. I guess she's got like a machete or something. Then the banister turns back to normal. Janet asks Rick not to attack her if she turns.
Well, and Rick shoots
I
Leslie
can never hurt you.
a couple times. And then Rick comes down and starts hacking off Leslie's arms. And Carol's
Yes,
like,
he
whoa,
does.
whoa, slow your roll. And then they go into a room and Janet wants Rick to make a pact with her that if they turn, they won't kill each other.
So then they decide to go look for the boat. Once again, I think it's Carol's.
It is Carol.
They must have come with a boat. So they said, oh, let's go look for the boat. Why didn't we think of that? So then they go to leave and Tom is at the door mumbling about Leslie.
Yes, looking a little dazed.
Yeah, Janet says she will stay with Tom while Rick and Carol look for the boat.
Tom's in no condition to walk and look for the boat, unfortunately.
And Janet barricades the door. He's putting all kinds of furniture and crap in front of it or behind it, whichever. Carol feels like she and Rick are being watched, and Rick runs after them, whoever's watching them. Then we see pieces of mirror hanging from trees, question mark, I wrote.
Yeah. See, again, they're clinking in the wind, but there's no real explanation.
Then Rick and Carol hear a radio. It's a Mayday call, Operation Mirror of Failure. So then they find a campsite with a crashed plane. Carol sees someone behind her in a mirror. Again, turns around, nobody there. But there is someone there because the head explodes and the body turns to
Rick
dust.
hits it with something and then it just blows away because it's dust.
They continue looking for a boat. They see it offshore. Janet, cut back to Janet. She's tending
See,
to
on the
Tom's
whole
wounds.
island, they go right to the spot where the boat is. Well, isn't that convenient?
Well, when they leave, he says, let's go this side. There should be another shoreline because they're on an island. So they were already on one side. So now they go to the other
I guess
side.
there are cliffs. We've seen cliffs, so they got to look for a flat area to walk in.
So then back at the hotel, we see Janet tending to Tom's wounds. I said, Tom ain't right. Something's wrong with Tom. And then Tom attacks Janet, and Janet escapes
And
narrowly
he starts
through
talk.
the
So he's just talking.
door.
He's like, "Oh, I always liked you best. You're so pretty, but you were Rick's girl, and I couldn't have." And then his voice starts to get deeper and deeper and more demonic. And then, yes, she freaks out and squeezes out the door.
But then the doors lock, locking Janet in the hotel, and she pushes the Christmas tree on top of Tom. Next, she gets in an elevator, which I am, oh, this place has an elevator, apparently. Tom tries to grab her, but she crushes Tom's hand with the elevator gate.
It's like the cage elevators where you got to move that gate over.
Tom grabs Janet's leg, and then she pushes the button to go up, and it severs Tom's arm as it goes up.
There's a nice kind of special effect of his fingers that she kind of cut off with the cage thing. There's like one hanging there. It as special, if we're going to rag on all the special effects of how terrible they are, that one was pretty good. His hand looked mangled. The blood wasn't great, but his hand looked mangled. Then his arm comes off. That's not as good, but the hand looked good.
So Carol and Rick arrive back at the hotel, and we see Janet attacked in the elevator by the wall. It's like something's protruding from the wall, grabbing her. Then the elevator comes back down, and Rick sees Janet sucked into the wall of the elevator.
The last two things you see are her boobs and her nose
Yeah.
as she's going into the wall, an
Then
outline of them.
hooligans arrive. Carol and Rick run away. They see the maid, or we see the maid, but then she disappears. And we're in the kitchen. Water runs, the stove flares, and Hooligan is sucked into a large vat.
No, that's actually Spud, I
Oh,
think.
is it?
I think it's Spud coming back to life because after he comes back to life,
I
then
thought it was the
Leslie's.
guy wearing the ace jacket.
Oh, maybe. I thought it was
I don't know.
Spud,
I don't remember.
but somehow the kitchen saves them from him. So it's like Carol was destined to be saved because every time she could have been.
But next, Karen, the kitchen attacks them.
Yes. So it was weird.
Knives and dishes start flying across the kitchen at Rick and Carol. And they get away, and then everything happens in reverse. They just run the tape backwards, what we just saw in reverse. So everything's back to normal. Rick and Carol re-enter the kitchen and head back to the lobby. Then we have a cut shot of Leslie's arm reattaching itself. And we hear Janet calling for Rick. And in the ballroom, they wind up in the ballroom, and apparently there's a ballroom waltz contest, and the final contestants, the MC says, are Rick and Carol. And the MC tells them that they are there forever. This is the Batman moment, right?
Yes.
She says the experiment went wrong, government, they were bending time, a plane crashed on the island, and they can never escape. So Rick and Carol running through the hotel again, continuously attacked by different stuff, things, people. Snooker table goes towards them. The dead hooligans attack them, and then Spud attacks Carol. Rick takes an axe to Spud's head. Rick and Carol jump on the snooker table and take a ride, I wrote. And again, the walls begin protruding All the others enter. All the other dead people, I mean. Yeah.
Yes. From the party and their
Yeah.
friends
And they
and
say,
the
come and join us. Stop fighting. Join us.
one of us.
Yeah. Rick and Carol jump on the table again, and there's a music playing I wrote, and
Froggy's Fog.
yeah, the table overturns and flips them out a window. So the table saves them this time.
And one of the hooligans, I think, gets cut in half
Yeah,
by the
by
table
the
leg or
table.
something.
So we
Split
see
down the middle, like
Rick,
not cut in half.
Rick and Carol outside, but the glass isn't broken. The room has gone back to normal when they look inside.
Yeah, I don't know why they're saved. They're all like, join us, join us. And then the snooker table throws them out the window and they're saved. It's weird.
So they run for the boat. They reach the boat and push off. But then Janet appears on the shore and calls for Rick. And Rick's a dumbass.
Yes, he is. Because Carol says, this happened more than once. It's a trick. Don't do it.
But Rick runs back. And when he gets to the sand, he gets trapped in quicksand, Karen.
To be fair, she wasn't violently murdered. She was in the wall, right? So she
True.
could have gotten out of the wall. Of all of the deaths, she could be the one like, oh, she got, because they got pushed through the wall and they came out okay. So I give, yes, it wasn't a good choice, but of all of the deaths, she could have still been alive. But yes, he falls into the dreaded quicksand because in the 80s, we all thought we were going to die in some sort of quicksand. And here it was. And right when he gets to his neck, because these are the kind of things the horror movies would be. Someone would bury you in the sand and just your head would be out and the tide's coming in. Like those were common horror movie things for us. But he goes into the quicksand right to his neck.
And then the guy from the fair, Dad, is his character, takes a propeller to Rick's head from a
We don't
boat
see
motor
it,
or
but
something.
we hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then cut to Carol, and she falls through the boat somehow.
Yeah. You think, okay, there's the final girl, right? And that boat would have come right back to shore. They were not far enough out. There were no oars or anything.
And then we cut back to the hotel, and all the others are dancing in the hotel, doing your little conga line thing. And
On
they
New
all
Year's
appear
Eve.
to be normal now. They all
Yeah.
look normal.
Except they're all in black and white.
And we see Carol trapped in a mirror. Same mirror that the girl was pulled into in the beginning.
Yeah, so I don't know if they're both in there or what's going on.
Credits, the end, Karen.
I will say I didn't get credits on either end. I didn't even get a title on the one I watched. So choose wisely. If you want credits or not, there were none. It just ended.
Well, if you don't have the credits, you missed the cool
I
groovy
agree.
80s music.
Well, I like to, a lot of people work on films. Everybody leaves before the credits. I like to kind of watch them for a while and see.
Yeah, I do too.
Because,
I even took a screenshot of them because it had the Fiend Without a Face credit in there. And
see,
also,
I had to look that up.
They also use footage from something called Warbirds. All right, what'd you think of our cocktail, Karen?
It's good.
Mine has evaporated.
They do tend to do that. I just start to wonder if people let's just make up a cocktail and add grenadine to a fuzzy navel and call it smooth sailing. Okay.
Yeah, sure they do. All right, are we ready to move on to next week's film, Karen?
I think we're ready to move on, Greg. What do you got?
Are you sure?
Yes.
All right, the film I have chosen is from 2008, Karen. It's a film called Splinter.
Ooh. Why did you choose that one?
Well, Karen, our next episode comes out on January the 8th, and Jill Wagner's birthday is January the 13th, and she stars in this film. There you go.
All right, excellent. Do you have a drink to go along with it?
I do, Karen.
Excellent. What would that be?
It's called the Hallmark Cocktail.
No, the Hallmark Cocktail. What? That's intriguing.
Yes, isn't it, though? So we're going to need raw sugar, I guess, for decorating a glass, brandy, elderflower liqueur, white creme de cacao, freshly squeezed lemon juice from the plastic lemon, and sparkling wine.
Sparkling wine.
Yep.
I just saw that at Target in a little bottle, and I thought, why would I need that? I should have picked it up.
Yep. Should have. I still have the last sparkling wine we used because I recapped it.
I don't think it's going to be sparkling.
Well, I
anymore.
recapped it. I'll bet it is.
Mm.
I used it and recapped it. So we'll see. Because I have a capping thing.
Oh, that's okay. You didn't just screw it back on.
No, I recapped it. I put a
Gotcha.
bottle cap on it. Well, we'll see. Maybe it's not, but whatever. I don't think it's going to make a difference. It's been in the fridge, so it's not bad. It just may not be so fizzy.
It'll be flat.
That's fine. So there you go. That'll be next week.
Excellent.
Anyone you need to thank this week, Karen?
Well, Greg, I'm going to thank our listener. There are a lot of podcasts out there. We just want to say thanks for spending time with us. What about you? Who do you need to thank?
Karen, I'm going to thank the band Verse 13 for providing all the music on the Scary Spirits podcast.
The music definitely makes the podcast better.
All right, anything else, Karen?
Well, I should say, since it's now New Year's Day,
Yeah.
that you obviously all drank responsibly enough to get home, but we hope you're not nursing your headache. But in the future, please drink responsibly.
Yes.
Happy New Year. Hey, it's Karen, and I'm here to talk to you about getting social with us. Did you know you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Scary Spirits Podcast? Or check out our website, scaryspirits.com. If you have something to say, email us at info@scaryspirits.com. And as always, thanks so much for listening. Please drink responsibly.